All right, good to go?
Yep.
All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Dean William Mitchell. I used to be Scoutmaster of Troop 32 and the FOS, the Friends of Scouting District Committee Chair for the Sea Pines District, which I believe now is called the Southern Shores District these days. But I have a lot of experience doing it, did it for 5 or 6 years. And if you do know John Brilla, you know he is a master asker. He just happened to see me at a merit badge fair when I brought my son there one time and sat down at a table and asked that son of a gun, and I said yes. And so there it is. And then I was part of the district committee, and then I was doing Friends of Scouting. And so for years we strategized on the best way to ask, because we are asking for donations from the scout parents. And, you know, you will get pushback sometimes from different people. One of my favorite troops, I think, was Troop 76 in Dorothy. That's a story for another day, but there was definitely some pushback there. We'll get into that in a little bit. But part of what I did, you know, now is the time to get it going. I would send an email out sometime between now and the next week to every unit. And hopefully they still got that template somewhere, John Brilla, of that email. I might have a few old ones, but I used to have a template that I would send out for the Cub Packs and one for the troops, the scout troops, to all of their leadership, whatever emails I had, the Scoutmaster, District Committee, and I would just get all those emails out. I would get some responses, but a lot of people would drag their feet. But one of the best ways, and you'll see if you look at the email that John sent you earlier, it's very comprehensive with a whole Friends of Scouting plan for Jersey Shore Council. Very detailed, very content rich. Added some things that I didn't have access to, a little bit more detail about what the Friends of Scouting monies go to, and which is good, because you know there are people that you know they want to know, well, where is this money going? Why am I paying a registration fee and you know the charter fee? I thought I'm paying for that. And so you know it's part of your job to educate them, to let them understand that you know all of those fees for the registration, the charter, they go to national, you know, and they're covered for national admin to keep, you know, the council records and all of those things to be recognized when there are advancements and everything. That's all admin fees and insurance that goes towards national, and we don't see any of those monies. So it's important to let them know that Friends of Scouting finances a whole variety of things that we don't really think about. And if you, well, I'm just going to, you know, take it from what John sent me, because it was pretty detailed as far as what it was. But you know, a lot of the money goes towards maintaining CITA, maintaining the Scout store up in Towns River, and you know, taking care of the staff, the support staff, but all the other things that go in with it that don't come from national. You know, all of the admin, registration, publications for local scouting camps and local scouting events for our own council events. All of those places, all those buildings at CITA, the service center, the utilities, the insurance, the repairs, all of that comes from Friends of Scouting. And this is something that you want to let them, you know, let them know and communicate that. And that's part of the presentation. Now, I would imagine some of you here will be doing the presentations, but most of you here are in a position where you're going to be getting your fundraising chair, and then you're going to be recruiting presenters. But it's good for you to know what to do. And it's not a bad idea for you to go out and do some presentations too, so that you have an idea of what an effective presentation is going to sound like and be like, and work with your presenters as well, and also your district chairs. As the district chair in the Sea Pines district, all I really would do, you know, I was able to work with my district executive, and there are already some presenters, but you always got to keep your eye open for talent. If you visit troops, this and that, you got to make the ask, as John Brilla did to me that one day. You just got to ask people if you see somebody that you think would be somebody that would, volunteer their time for an extra 2, 3, 4, 5 nights. Generally speaking, you might have 30 units or 35 units in your district. It all depends. So you kind of got to break that down. That's 35 Friends of Scouting presentations for that particular district. So that's 35 nights, 35 meetings that you have to schedule somebody to meet with the unit. And then some presenters, they'll just give. Just do your best not to wear them out. Some you got to, contact a little more and get up with a little more. I try to get as many different people involved if possible. And sometimes I got stuck and I would just go to old reliable and I would go to somebody that had done it all the time. So John just said all these people are presenters. That's good. But I just want to make sure that I'm covering all facets of Friends of Scouting here, because all of it's important. So if you're just the presenters, it's also good to get involved at the district level and help find other presenters. If you're out presenting and you see somebody that is dynamic or you feel has a little bit of juice, as I like to say, it's somebody you might want to ask, to help out. So these are just a couple of things that you want to keep in mind as far as organizing and presenting. So John's saying all these people are presenters. So, look, as a presenter, hopefully at some point in your youth or as an adult, you were a member of Scouting in some form or fashion. And even if you weren't, you're involved now. So you're going to have some type of story that you're going to be able to tell. And this is key. I mean, if you look at the information that John sent over with the presentation, there's a lot of stuff there. But the bottom line is you want to be able to tell a story about something personal that happened to you or that you're able to relate to of the impact of Scouting. There are a number. One story I just think of at the top of my mind, we had one individual in my unit, and this was very early on in my Scouting career. We're at a beach camp out actually, and this young individual, I think they had problems with, I believe, fetal alcohol syndrome, so they couldn't use their hands too well. And I just remember watching the one assistant scoutmaster teaching them how to button his shirt, how to buckle his belt, tie his shoes, and just work with them through that process. And that made an impact on me, because you're not going to necessarily see a teacher in school spend that kind of time with somebody in that situation. But even beyond that, there's so many things that you can share about Scouting that most of our kids today don't get access to. I know from my own career, just the whole idea of community service, giving back to the community, doing community cleanups, all the things that Scouting indeed is able to impact the community with. You can share some of the numbers. I know John shared something with the 2023 numbers, and possibly the 2024 numbers will be coming out. But, a couple of things that I saw was over, 7,200 service hours were provided in 2023 by Jersey Shore Council's, units and scouts. That could be for anything from beach cleanups, creek cleanups, participating in memorial ceremonies. There's a whole gambit of things that you can share that, Scouting has an impact on your local communities. And it gets these kids, hopefully away from the screens, gets them in the outdoors, gets them appreciating nature, builds their character, responsibilities, independence, just so many things, even public speaking. I know one of the things about Scouting that I saw right in the beginning is, the skits. I mean, how often are you going to see, these kids, and they're all getting involved in skits? So they get that experience of public speaking, and of having fun, that whole idea of it. So that's just another thing that you can share. I know some of you on the panel here tonight, and I know some of you watching the recording, you know, if you grew up in scouting, I know you're going to have some fantastic stories. Pick a good one. If you can pick one with a little humor in it, that's always advisable. You get people laughing, that they're going to loosen up a little bit and be more apt to give. Another thing that I would also stress, especially when you're talking to unit leaders, and this is just some of the things that I skimmed over as I was going through what John had sent me, and I'm pretty familiar with most of it because I have been doing it for so long. But you'll probably encounter some resistance from leaders, but as far as doing an FOS presentation, but you just got to stress to them, just say, hey, look, we're not asking anybody to, we're not pressuring anybody. All we're doing, we're just asking, and I'm sure there's going to be, people that can't afford it or can't afford to give, and that's fine. But there are going to be also people that, can afford to give and that want to give. And I would always also stress, and I did several presentations. I mostly was the organizer, but there were times when I had to go out and present. And what I would do, I would just say, hey, look, I don't know how many calls you get on a monthly period of people asking for donations. I don't know how many times that happens on a quarterly or an annual basis, but I know I get calls for that. This is something where you can donate locally. Your money is going to stay local, and it's going to go to the youth and the children in this local community and in our local council, and it's going to impact them. And that's something that I found that people, they like the idea that their money could stay local, because most people out there, they are donating something. People that go to church, they're tithing every week. So there are people making donations, and encourage them to consider a donation to Friends of Scouting and having an impact of being able to impact the youth in your local community. We produced 110 Eagle Scouts in 2023. That's pretty awesome. And almost 800 youth had rank advancements in the Cub Scouts, and almost as many in the Boy Scouts, the Scouts BSA as well in 2023. So these are all things that you can cite and recognize as the program being a benefit to the youth and to the Scouts. Some of the other things that I mentioned, and some people will want to know, well, where does this money go to? Goes to training, membership recruitment, counseling, guidance for your district, camps and programs. I know that people say, well, we have to pay for summer camp, but summer camp's fairly affordable for what's provided at camp, and there's really only a third of the money that is required to run that camp comes from camp fees. The other 2/3 is going to come from Friends of Scouting and donations. And we understand that people give a lot of their time, especially the unit leaders, and that's something that you're going to want to address, early on, to ask the unit leader to visually, turn their card in and make a donation when you're doing your presentation. I always had, I'd get a couple Scouts, and I'd always give the cards out to them right in the beginning and have them distribute them. Have the Scouts assist you with giving the cards, because they're going to know who the people are, and gets them involved as well, and they're all part of it. You also want to set up so that with the unit leader, let them know that when you're done the presentation, you want to collect the cards right then, and tell the Scouts that assist you, say, hey, I'm going to require, as soon as I'm done, I'll give you a nod. I want you to go around and collect the cards. Because the idea is as you're presenting, you want them filling out the cards. You want the cards handed out as soon as you get there. You talk to the unit leader. And again, it's good if you set this up ahead of time. Speak with the unit leader or whoever your unit contact is before you get there, and ask them, hey, are there a couple Scouts that can assist me with handing out the cards? I'd like to get that done as soon as we get there. And then you find out the schedule of what time you're going to go on and you're going to make the presentation. Of course, some of the best times to do your FOS presentations are at the the red and green dinner, or the annual troop dinner, A non-Eagle court of honor that that parents are going to be come to be watching for their rank advancements for their youth. Cub Pack blue and gold dinners. And I learned this early on. John always told me, stay away from Pinewood Derby, because everybody at the Pinewood Derby is into the Pinewood Derby. The last thing you want to hear is you asking them money for Friends of Scouting. So focus on that. And I know also the Troop Summer Camp Planning Meeting. Now, the only challenge with the Troop Summer Camp Planning Meeting is that sometimes they don't come in till June or July, which is well after we want to have all of our donations tallied up and in there. But if that's the only time you can get a unit to do it, and the most productive time for them to do it, well, then you got to do it. I remember one specific unit had all the time, and they were like July, August before they had their troop summer camp planning, and that's when they wanted to do it. So you'll have to be flexible enough and work around that as well. But the best thing to do is get it at those events where the blue and gold, because they're usually in February, March time. Same thing with troop dinners, and you want to try and get it all knocked out as early as you can, so you're not scrambling towards the end and picking up the pieces when you still have 10 or 15 units and it's creeping up on June. So you want to definitely avoid that. We always had probably around 5 or 6 when we were creeping up on June, but it was important. Another great place to get unit chairs or unit heads to schedule their meeting is at the Klondike. We would go around at the Klondike. Now, I know in recent years one Klondike was in March or something, but usually the Klondike's in January, and I would specifically go around with one or another presenter, and you'll find a lot of units are there. So that's a time that you can say, hey, when do you want to schedule your Friends of Scouting presentation, your Friends of Scouting appeal? And I could get a lot scheduled then. So when I say a lot, maybe like 8 to 10. I might get lucky and get 8 to 10 scheduled right then. And I would always send that email out again to the people that did not respond to me right before, or about a week before the Klondike, where I knew I was going to see all those people. And then I would, hit them again there. So it's repetition. And then you just start following up. By the end of January, the goal is to have contacted or at least spoken to everybody about scheduling their Friends of Scouting appeal, and follow-up is key. I know all of us have these days, and there's a little handy calendar in there and a little reminder feature. And some of you may or may not use it, but it's something that is helpful to remind you to follow up with people and make sure you get all your Friends of Scouting presentations scheduled so that you can go and do it. And then from there, it's making sure you have the coverage to go present. And if you can't make a presentation, or if you have to bow out, it's always good for you to know the other presenters so you guys can work together and help each other with that, as far as making sure there's coverage for a unit event. So when you go through the presentation and you talk about giving, understand that, back in the day, if they didn't have their checkbook with them, you were kind of like SOL. You're like, okay, well, I'll have to get back to you. And the idea was, look, just make a pledge. You don't have your checkbook, that's fine, just make a pledge. But now, look, they can have a debit or credit card. They can do it in payments. Don't forget to mention their employer may have a matching donation policy, and a lot of employers do. And just ask them, even if they think not, just ask them if they'd be willing to do that to help locally. The employer might institute one, or the employer might just say, yeah, I'll match your donation for the scouting for the community. You just never know until you ask. That is the biggest thing. You can't GET if you don't ASK, and that's the bottom line. You just got to ask. I mean, the worst they're going to say is no, and if they say no, just have a conversation. Say, well, why? What are your thoughts on this? And remember to listen. You're going to have some people where you're going to have to engage in a conversation, and you're just going to have to listen. You know, there's that old adage, seek to understand before being understood. So in that conversation, you want to see what their objections are, what their concerns are with donating to Friends of Scouting. It really is as simple as a conversation. And look, the more conversations you have, the better you'll get at it. So just like the more presentations that you do, the better you'll get at it. You should want to do more is all I'm saying. You know, if you're not good at something, just continue to get good. It's like practice and repetition. The more you do something, the better you'll get at it. And you'll learn from every presentation. You'll learn from every conversation. You want to be conscious while you're presenting. You know, make eye contact with the people. If eye contact with the people distracts you, there are a couple little tricks. Stare right here at the middle of their forehead when you're looking over at the group. So you're not making direct eye contact, and you'll find that'll help you, or that'll assist you with not getting distracted so that you can stay focused on what you're presenting. You can use, you know, they used to have little cards or little poster boards and charts. If you want to use a couple of those, maybe even a 3x5 card, so you can have some of the numbers that you want to read out. But for the most part, you know, just have a conversation with all these people, tell them a little bit about just what I've been telling you about here, about your scouting experience. Tell them a little story where they may laugh, and you know, share a little bit about that. Share a little bit about the impact, where the monies go, some of the things that were done recently, just up at Camp Sitta. I think I have that here just to kind of to go off of that, because it's impressive, all the things that have been done at our camp recently, and then some of the things that we're planning to do, you know, on the goal list. Rebuilding the boathouse, that's not going to be cheap, you know. So that's something that we want to do at Sitta. Renovating the waterfront, you know, looking at renovating the front building for a scout shop, to have another scout shop, you know, a little bit closer than Tom's River for some of your southern units, those people. Adding electricity on the North Road up at Sitta. So these are just some of the goals that you can mention, and then some of the things that Friends of Scouting has financed. The Cowboy Action shooting range, you know, the 3D Action archery range, all the sites having pavilions now, the waterfront changing stations at the waterfront. You know, we've upgraded the kitchen equipment in the dining hall. At flush toilets at all the sites. Now, I haven't been to Sitta in a while. That's shocking. You mean there's flush toilets at all the sites now? There's not just a smelly hole in the ground? Oh my gosh, it wouldn't be camping without that.
We do still have the smelly holes.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
We took a vote, and everybody said keep the smelly holes and have the flushies. Also, do new roofs through a lot of the buildings. On the dining hall, stuff like that was the big one last year, I think.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome, and you can share that. You know, so there's flush toilets for those youth who might be a little nervous about falling in the smelly hole, and for those youth that are that they really don't care about that, the smelly hole is there. They don't want to wait for a flush toilet. They got the smelly hole option. But these are just some of the things that you can share with people about what you know, where the monies are going and what the monies are required for, and it's good to let them know that, to share a little bit about that, and then just ask them, look, whatever you can afford, you know, we can do it on a monthly, you can do it quarterly. You don't have to donate now. We can take it from a debit card. If you'd rather write a check, just make a pledge tonight. Let us have your information. Also, make sure you speak to your employer and look at the possibility of them having a matching donation. And that's basically it. It's just more about a friendly conversation. You know, you don't have to remember every single detail. Just hit some of the major bullet points, some of the important things. that scouting does for the community, some of the things that it does for the youth. You know, I mean, you know, some of these youth, when they take a merit badge, you know, they're going to end up doing that as a career. You know, I know my son took welding merit badge. He didn't end up making it his career, but he gave it a shot. He wanted to go for welding. Didn't end up working out, but it's something that he went for. I think 4% of all scouts pick a career that they did a merit badge on. So that's also something that you might share or mention. It's just one more thing that they're going to get, and no matter what, you know, even if a youth doesn't get to Eagle Scout or isn't had that much of an impact as far as rank advancement. I mean, I had several scouts. You know, I had one kid. I don't think he ever made second class, but he was at every camping trip all the time. And I never met his father. Right, he was from a split family. I saw his mother maybe 4 times in 4 or 5 years. I wouldn't know his father if I tripped over him. So this was giving this kid something. You know, he didn't make the rank advancements, but he was there at every camping trip, and I know it had an impact on the kid. I had another kid. He was already part of the troop, and he used to do the camping, and he wasn't big into the advancement either. And he eventually, he eventually left scouting. Well, you know, gosh, it'd been 2 or 3 years since I saw this kid, and I was in a lumber yard or supply store. And I'm in there getting some stuff for my own, you know, business. And I hear, Mr. Mitzel, Mr. Mitzel. I'm like, and I'm looking, and here comes this young man coming to me. And I gotta look, and I was like, and here was this individual that was in the scouting. You know, he left early, got into a little bit of trouble, but here he was in the trades. And I'll still see him on occasion, and I'll hear Mr. Mitzel. And here's this 20-year-old calling me Mr. Mitzel and coming up and saying hello. So, you know, there's going to be an impact on the youth, no matter at what level. If they make it the Eagle Scout, that is awesome. But even if they don't, scouting makes an impact on the youth, and that's something else that you can stress to folks, no matter how long or short that they're in the scouting program. There's going to be an impact, and just even for the community service end of it, you know, teaching them all those things. And I think, I don't know if there's anything else, you know, I'm probably forgetting a few things, because what you sent me, John, was like a college course here in FOS presentations and all this other stuff. But I think basically, one thing I can mention, keep your presentation brief, shoot for under 10 minutes, practice it, make it 8 minutes, make it 7 minutes, just focus on being impactful. You know, tell the humorous story, you know, give a couple feel-good stories about the impact and what it's going to do, and just encourage people to give if they can, and if they can't, turn in their pledge cards just with a 0 on it. You understand that, but at least you'll understand that they can't donate at this time, and then that way, you know, they won't receive repeated mailings or phone calls when we don't see any communication from a person in that unit. So that's another way to kind of word that. But that's about all I got, Mr. Brilla, unless there's some questions or there's something you feel I didn't cover.
Does anybody have any questions or comments, concerns? A couple things that I would add is, before the presentation is critical. Talking with the unit leader, letting them know the expectations, maybe getting a roster, so you can sort the pledge cards by den or by patrol. That way it's easier to distribute them. Also, we do a pre-mailer before the presentation, so everybody knows that there's going to be a presentation. They get a letter in the mail letting them know what's happening. So it's not a surprise to anybody. So that's why it's important that we get those dates so we can send the mailer out ahead of time. Jim,
well, when you do that, get the name of 2 or 3 of the youth that are going to assist you. You know, ask the unit leader, right, when you connect with them ahead of time, get that set up so you know who you're going to give the cards to. That's going to be, they know who everybody is.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to collect them. And again, it makes them a part of it. They're involved in it. And then of course it's the scouts collecting the cards, not you. It's the youth. It's the youth from the unit that are actually involved in, giving the cards out and collecting the cards. And I think that's a big piece of it as well.
Absolutely. And one thing that you could do is ask the unit leader to hand their card first or at the end of your presentation to show that they support. And
Right.
they can hand it in and write a 0 on it. Like it just the significance of showing that they support it, because a lot of the people don't know you. They know the unit leader or any of the other adults, but they don't know who you are. So that just like establishes like a trust and reliability.
Another thing you could do, and I know that we tried to do this towards my latter end of my FOS chair career there, was trying to get somebody from the unit to make the appeal. And I know that was next to impossible as it was, but maybe you can talk to the unit leader and see if there's anybody that might have a story to share. They might have something to get them involved, a story about an impactful story about their youth or something they saw. You might just say, hey, do you have a 1 or 2 minute story about scouting? I know one story that I always share when I'm teaching, the gold training. Early in my career, I'm trying to think if it was scouting or if it was still Weeblos. I think it was scouting, and it was one of our first camping trips. We're going out on a hike to identify some of the animals and the foliage as part of our requirements. And I'm going out, and we're in Belle Plaine State Forest Camp, and we're walking out, and I'm there with some other dads, and I kind of know a little bit. I used to hunt, and I know a little bit about the trees and stuff, so I was kind of leading the hike and doing that. And I said, well, guys, if we're lucky, we'll get to see, maybe we'll see a snake, or, maybe we'll see a turtle. I said, we don't even get to see a lizard. And one of the dads says, lizards? There's no lizards in New Jersey. I said, oh, really? So we went walking, and long story short, towards the end of the hike, we're coming back. We had seen a number of things. And then I hear something going in the leaves, and I look in the brown leaves, and they're impossible to see, but one of the indigenous lizards of Jersey is an eastern fence swift, and in my youth, I became quite the lizard catcher. So sure enough, I went and captured the lizard, and then I asked the dad. I said, "No lizards in New Jersey, huh, Rich?" And then we had the lizard. But the funniest part of the story, as I was letting the kids kind of touch the lizard, and I was relaxing my grip on the lizard, the one kid started petting its head. It jumped out of my hand, latched onto him. And if you ever saw the Scarecrow when he was playing with fire in The Wizard of Oz, we had it right there with this young man. And everybody just started busting up laughing. And he was jumping around like the Scarecrow. And finally got him to stop after we started laughing. And the lizard was just hanging loose, just going for the ride. But it's always a funny story to share of some of the things that you get to experience in scouting.
Yeah, I remember I had you for my nature's course during Gold Weekend, and you said that story, and it was like an icebreaker. It got everybody.
Right on, Eli. That's one that I use, and it is a funny one.
Yeah.
Never in scouting as a youth, were you? That's why I mentioned that to begin with.
Yeah.
I remember that. I'm sure you have some experiences now.
Yes, well, I do have a little bit. I'm doing wood badge, so that's going to be a big part of it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yes, it is. You're going to be a wood badger, my man.
No, John, I think you were starting to ask. I think you guys hit on most of the big things. I think having an introduction from somebody in the unit that is trusted is important. And it doesn't have to be much. Again, you really only want to take 10 minutes. So you have to have a plan. So if you can just tell the person who's coming, who's going to be introducing you, hey, Joe Provenzano is coming up to talk about Friends of Scouting. It's a very important program we run every year. A lot of things happen behind the scenes that maybe you don't see. I believe in the program, and so is going to come up and tell you a little bit about it. I support it. I hope you will too. And that's all you really need there from them. But you need to have a game plan. It's amazing once you stand up and start talking off the cuff like this, how easy it is to drift.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have a heartfelt story or a funny kind of anecdote, whatever it is that you want to get across, which is what helps sell it. But you also have to get to, as you said, what scouting supports. How do they give? You actually have to make an ask. I'm here to ask for your help. So I have found, even as often as I have done it, that I have a little notepad, like you said, a 3x5 card. Usually it's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that I'll like fold in half, so I can, I can kind of palm it. Um, but otherwise, it's very easy for things to go off the rails, especially when especially when you talk in front of kids, and all of a sudden somebody's got a question, and it's coming from a 9-year old. You know, sometimes people have serious questions that crop up, and or as Dean said, maybe they have, hey, they really want to know where the money goes, and you can tell it's going to be involved. I think you need to be prepared to pivot and say, I can be here as long as you need me, but I know that I'm the only thing stepping between you and the clown, or whatever the entertainment is at the PAC meeting. So why don't I finish this and we can go into the back and talk, and I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has, you know. It might be something you don't know or not comfortable with, and it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not 100% sure on the answer to that, but I know somebody that I can ask that can help find it out for us. So, any other thoughts, concerns that people have? John, I don't know what else you had on the agenda.
That was pretty much it. We do have a couple recognition items. Obviously, every year we have a patch, a Scout Law patch, that shoulder strip. If they donate $250, and then we have other recognition items that we give at a specific level. Everybody that gives a donation gets we were giving out a cell phone wallet, and we had to come up with something new this year to hand out. So that way, when they hand in a card, we give them something to thank them for their donation.
John, we can price out. I've been looking for an opportunity for this one. I thought it was a neat kind of leave behind. It's an eyeglass cleaning. What do you call the
Oh yeah, you
eyeglass
showed
cleaning
me that.
cloth? A
Yeah.
microfiber cloth. But there's companies you can imprint on it, so you can even do some kind of messaging or marketing piece, maybe about joining scouting, or maybe it's about how scouting supports the community. But we can kind of put something, and that might be a nice leave behind for everybody. That I
Yep,
think is a relatively cost efficient.
I agree. Unless people have other thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, it's just make sure, you let them know everybody gets this for, have one of the council patches. I believe this year's Scout Law patch is courteous. Last year's was friendly. And if for $300, they have a choice of things they can pick, it looks like, as far as the picnic shade, mini Bluetooth speaker, whatever else you guys have here. And of course, an invite to the Loyal Buffalo event up at Camp Sitta for any $300 donors. And if I'm not mistaken, if you're $300, you still get the patch and your choice of one of those things. Correct, John?
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
So you get that, and the fashionable cell phone wallet as well, or eyeglass cleaner.
Correct.
I see Joey P up there, man. It's good to see you, Joey, Mr. District Executive up there.
You keep on moving up.
Good to see you there, young man. I'll tell Tanner I saw you tonight.
So I don't want to keep people any longer unless we have other
Anybody
questions.
else have any questions?
Great.
Nope.
Well, doesn't sound like it.
No.
If anyone does have any questions, you can always reach me and Eli, whatever.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Sounds like a plan. Just remember, one of the things, just really, just have a pretty good idea or, part of your presentation of where the money goes. That's important. And don't forget to say, hey, this is about donating locally. This is about keeping the money that you donate local, right? Not across the country, not to an organization that you don't know. This is your local youth. So that's something else that I would also utilize as well. That's important. If they know that it's staying local and it's locally, you know, sometimes that has an impact on whether or not they're going to donate or how much they're going to donate. So keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely.